Hi, everyone. This is Daria DiGiovanni, author of My Escape from the Sick Care System, A Guide to Overcoming PCOS, Hashimoto's, and Autoimmune Conditions with Functional Medicine. So in this little clip, I wanted to share one of the themes of my book, and that is what I'll call sort of unlikely messengers or unexpected messengers, because that is something throughout my health journey I experienced over and over again at different milestones. So one that I talk about in my book is showing up for work one day in 1999. I was in marketing and community relations for Washington Mutual Bank in South Florida. And I had an office with three amazing women, but one of them was our administrative assistant, and she and I were usually the first ones into work every morning. So one morning I got to work and she came through the door and she had a styrofoam container, obviously from McDonald's, right, with breakfast. And I can't remember exactly, but I think she volunteered that she had gotten scrambled eggs and bacon or sausage from McDonald's, but she did not get the biscuit or the hash browns because she was quote unquote doing Atkins to, in her words, to prepare for a heart test. And then she went on to explain to me that, oh yeah, Atkins is great. Everybody does it when they have to have heart tests done because it's good for your heart. And the first thought in my mind was, well, if Atkins is so good for your heart, then why don't you just eat that way all the time? That was the first thing. And then when she was telling me like all the things she could eat, including, you know, real cream, full fat cheese, full fat yogurt, like steak. It blew my mind because like most people, I grew up with on the low fat mantra. Everything was low fat, low fat, low flat, low fat, not flat. Um, and I'm sure, if you lived through the 80s, you remember things like Snackwell's cookies, and everything was about low fat, even 80s and 90s, even in the 70s. I have to be honest with you, because as a little kid, I went to Weight Watchers. My mom was really trying to help me, and I love my mom is awesome. I mean, she just through every problem I was having in my life, she always did her best to help. So we went to Weight Watchers, and that was also the mantra at Weight Watchers. Everything was low fat. One thing I remember to this day, I'm in my 50s and I still remember the disgusting taste of skim milk with Special K cereal. I was 8 years old at the time and it was absolutely disgusting. I can still taste that skim milk, believe it or not. It just has never left me. So anyway, finding out from my former coworker that, oh, on Dr. Atkins, you can have full fat cheese, you can have whipped cream, you can have, steak and hamburgers. You just can't eat the bread. She was telling me all the things that couldn't eat. It just blew my mind. I had a healthy dose of skepticism, but I'm grateful that my curiosity compelled me to go get the book that night. I think I went to Barnes& and Noble bookstore that night, bought the book, read it from cover to cover, and was absolutely blown away. Okay, this man, this doctor, who I believe was a cardiologist, he was definitely a medical doctor, had case study after case study of patients who reversed type 2 diabetes, of patients uh, whose hearts, they were having heart issues, how everything improved from eating low carb. And then you went into their numbers and things like that. I mean, in a confidential way. And as I was reading, I was a little bit naive back then, because I didn't make the connection of follow the money, find the truth, but I just couldn't understand why the AMA, the American Medical Association, wasn't beating down this man's door, finding out what he was doing to reverse chronic illness in all of his patients, right? But now I know better. And anyway, so, by the time 2020 rolled around, I was fully awake. But at the time, I was really surprised that he was vilified instead of lionized. But I did Atkins and I got through the first week. Now, people call that the keto flu these days. But back when I did it in 1999, I did experience it. And I'm glad that in his book, he said, you're not going to feel well probably for a week. Yeah, in my case, I think it lasted about a week. It might have been like 5 days, something like that, but definitely several days where I had a headache and I had low energy. And what was happening was I was coming out of carbohydrate withdrawal and it took, that stuff had to come out of my system. But I persisted because I read his book and I realized he was legitimate. And I also realized that the diet was actually 4 phases. Okay. A lot of people at that time, because I do think it had a surge in popularity around that time, hence the reason why my coworker was doing it to prepare for her heart test, that a lot of those people, though, didn't get past the induction phase and also misinterpreted it to mean like just eat as much beef as you like, eat as much of anything as you want. I mean, and honestly, for me, protein is so filling. Like I couldn't even possibly overeat steak, but man, I was enjoying, the hamburger, like bacon cheeseburgers without the bread. And to me, it didn't matter. Like it was so good to be able to eat that and to be able to eat full fat cheese and full fat yogurt, which I also loved. Now, I will admit back then, and this was many, many years ago, but back then I was a little sad that I had to give up oatmeal. I since know now that oatmeal is not good for you. They're still peddling that lie that it is. But once I got past all of that, and my energy came back. I mean, my energy surged. And then as the weight started coming off, man, it was awesome. Now, I will say it put me at odds with a lot of people, including my own dad, right? Who loved my dad dearly. And we didn't argue, but he was very concerned about my health and, oh my God, you're going to ruin your heart and all this kind of thing. Well, of course, that never happened. My blood work actually improved. And then I had other people telling me, well, you're starving your system. And yes, I understand that when you remove carbs, you are in a sense starving your system. You are in a sense like kind of like mimicking intermittent fasting. But now I know better. Now I flex back and forth. So I don't stay like low carb all the time. But when I do eat carbs, it's good carbs. Like I might have a sweet potato with my steak or my hamburger kind of thing. But I also want to say when you have Hashimoto's or low hypothyroidism, 95% of hypothyroidism is due to Hashimoto's. But there are people that could have hypothyroidism without having the autoimmune condition of Hashimoto's. But either way, when your thyroid is not functioning properly, I know from personal experience, and I documented in my book, it doesn't matter how well, like in terms of losing weight, right? It doesn't matter how you're eating. You could be a vegetarian, you could be low carb, you could be carnivore, right? And if your thyroid's not functioning, it doesn't matter because one of my biggest symptoms was I gained a certain amount of weight in spite of being low carb, right? And then I couldn't get that weight off no matter what I did. And it was very, very frustrating. And I'll be honest, I got to a point before I discovered I had Hashimoto's and found the right person to help me or the right people to help me. I was just like, screw it, I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm not proud of that. But the fact is, you really have to investigate if something is working for you. Like in my case, being low carb was great. The weight came off. I was keeping it off for several years until I wasn't. And that went on for years until I discovered that I actually developed Hashimoto's thyroiditis along the way. And nothing was going to change as far as weight loss until I got on the right protocol, which I am on now. So the weight did come off, thankfully, once I started working with the right people. So I just wanted to share that little tidbit from my book. But getting back to my purpose for this video, my coworker Priscilla at the time was one of those unexpected messengers. When I went into work that day, I didn't expect that I was going to get some information that was going to change my life for the better. And that has really been sort of one of the themes of my life. So again, my book is My Escape from the Sick Care System. It is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Please check it out. It also has a lot of interactive exercises at the end of each chapter, a lot of resources for helping yourself, like a daily tracking template for food, water, and beverages, different labs that you should order or ask for from your doctor, online lab companies, so that if your doctor won't order a particular lab test, you can still get them online. Although I do recommend finding a doctor who will, because the labs don't do you any good unless you have the right person to interpret them and tell you what to do in response to those labs. But there's a lot of valuable information in here, and also a symptom guide, a list of recommended podcasts, and just lots of exercises that you can do to help yourself heal. So I hope you'll check it out, and thank you for listening. Be well.